everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Susie Von Slaughter.
And I'm Jaime and Fuego. Oh my God, Marcia! Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just kind of woke up like this.
Marcia, I'm pretty sure you have stigmata.
The what?
Fly from you, Satan!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the horror show. I'm Marcia Susie.
I'm Susie Von Slaughter.
And I'm Jaime and Fuego. We are here to do a special request. That's right, a patron request from Brad Queen. This is one that has been sitting around since October. Yay, yay. This is a film.
This is actually November, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sure, why not? This is a film that I have never seen, but both of the girls had seen previously.
Really?
But yes, I had never watched this because when this initially came out, I thought it looked like crap and I had no interest in watching it.
Okay.
We will give my thoughts now that I finally watched it here in a little bit, but we are talking Stigmata by Rufus Wainwright. Anyway, it was the same guy who just most recently in the last decade or so did the Fog remake, and he has various other films to his credit. But as Cecil mentioned, this came out about the same time as End of Days. It also had Gabriel Byrne, and so besides the trailers not really exciting me that much, based on the fact that it was also kind of a satanic leaning sort of thing, and that had Arnie in it, damn it. So I was more excited for End of Days than I was for something with Patricia Arquette.
You can watch more than one movie, right?
Well, back when I was in 9th grade, though, and I was trying
Yes.
to sneak into all of these movies.
Oh yeah. Well, you were too busy in 9th grade. I got it.
Right.
No, I
There
had
you
Christian
go.
parents who wouldn't let me see any of this shizzle, and so I'm trying to sneak into movies and even see any of
I
this
get
in the
it.
first place. My dad loved Arnold, so I was allowed to go see End of Days, but you girls have seen this before, and
God.
obviously,
100 times.
yes. For my one and only time seeing it, I will hold off on my thoughts, but since you have both seen it before, I guess, Marcia, I will toss it to you, since I get the vibe that you really dig this movie.
I really did like this movie when it first came out. I feel like it really ignited something that wasn't really touched on at the time. This is before The Exorcist of Emily Rose and all of those movies that came out. So it is
Susie's breathing fire over here.
It is very 90s, and
It is.
and it is very different. It's very Patricia Arquette.
Yes.
But
that's true.
but it was it came out around the time. I think The Craft was big at that time.
A few
this
years
is
later, yeah.
so 90s. But I really enjoyed it, and rewatching it, I'm there's still moments that I'm just wow, really? I watched this movie?
That was me through a lot of this movie last night watching it.
But I think at the time it really hit home because it was so new, and so different, and there's some kind of really jarring scenes. But at this time, after so long, I don't feel it really holds up.
No.
So that's my review.
Susie, cute.
Okay. So, like you were saying, I'm a big 90s person. I love the 90s. Yes, this movie is very, very 90s all
You should have been
around.
on that VH1 show.
Yeah, but as far as the movie goes, this is kind of the first, besides The Craft, this is the first that really deals with that kind of religious stigmata. If you don't know about stigmata, it is that...
I don't think there's ever been another movie really
No,
on
that
Stigmata.
heavily
on
pursued
stigmata.
the topic.
Stigmata
Yeah.
is
Not in
basically
the mainstream. No.
you are the holiest of thou. You are fucking chosen for this. So there really hasn't been, I don't recall, don't fucking quote me on that. Holy shit, I do not want all those hate comments. That I recall that really touches on this.
Specifically Stigmata.
Specifically, yes. So for the time, I thought it was done really well.
Mm-hmm.
For the first of its kind, I thought it was done really well.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jaime.
Okay, I would have a little bit more affinity if I watched it at the time, but since I did not have... I had the feels of nostalgia for this, similar to watching the Rage Carry 2 or, the Firestarter Rekindled sequel, where I was like, okay, they've turned them into goth girls, and it's kind of this, sort of otherworldly thing going down. And Gabriel Byrne is good, and the fact that I was raised a Reformed Baptist, we're talking, my dad is still a Bible teacher at Phoenix Christian High School. I even asked him today, I'm like, so Pop, what's up about the Gospel of Thomas? Is that some real stuff? What's going on? Because until the end of the movie, I didn't even think that was a thing. And then when they have lines and lines of text talking about it, I went and I asked him, You know, because I was curious, and he's like, well, there's a lot of debate in the church and presumably cover up. That's where they brought an interesting element to me into it, if it was actually based on some real factual, you know, church stuff. As far as the love story between the two of them, it is absolute trash and so forced and has no business being here. And that is, for me, what really makes this movie bad.
But that one scene, though.
Yeah, but I'm knocking over stuff just like Cecil.
When, like, she, like, breaks out, like, almost like she, like, full on,
like in the bedroom and shit. Yeah, no,
that was cool.
There's some good effects in this movie. It's at that tail end of the 90s where they were figuring some of their stuff out, you know? And the cuts are brutal and everything where she's experiencing all the wounds. But, yeah, if we're still just getting to the tail end of general impressions and overall thoughts, I didn't like it, you know, but I did see that there was talent and a budget behind it, and it's not crap, but it just, I don't know, I didn't like it very much.
No.
So
I can understand your point of view, considering, like, you know, it is so 90s, and there's just been so many like amazing things that have come out, but I think this movie really paved that way to allow that to happen, because I mean, it just wasn't getting done. I mean, even, you know, religious stuff is really touchy, and if you don't do it right, and, you know, people, like, I mean, people are very passionate about their religion, and then especially if you're talking about stuff that goes against the church and how they're going to react to it and what they do. Like, they straight up were going to, like, kill this girl.
Corruption, cover up, all that stuff.
That's
exactly. Because, like, the 90s was such a huge era of that retaliation against the church. So, for this movie to come out, like, that was a big deal. Yes, it's kind of, like, touch and go with that. Yes, there's a whole lot more that they could have done that we're saying now, you know, 2019, but for the time that it was done in, like, I think it, like you're saying, it really paved the way. Seeing it now, obviously, yes, it's kind of lackluster, so. Yeah.
Well, and also it reopened the door for possession horror of sorts, of a really religious variety to kind of jump back in.
But there still weren't too many of those.
No, and that's where it paved the way and it opened the door, you know, to get stuff like that back into the, you know, mainstream consciousness and vogue and stuff like that. And so, segueing in the story, we have so honestly, we don't even meet Patricia Arquette until we have the opening scene with the fact
father.
that, we realize that Gabriel Byrne is somebody who was at one time a scientist, and now he's a, I guess he's a priest, because I always get all the terms, because there's pastors, there's preachers, and there's priests, and it depends on what sect, whether you're Protestant, whether you're Orthodox, whether you're Catholic. I mean, there's all these different distinctions as far as Christianity goes. And so, yeah, he's a priest, so he's affiliated with the Catholic Church, and they essentially, based on his scientific know-how, they sent him to these particular spots to verify if a spiritual happening has actually transpired. And there's that statue with the bleeding eyes, and they're trying to verify if it was, and he says it's real blood and all this other stuff. And so he goes back and he's reporting to the, you know, the Vatican,
the Cardinal,
and the Cardinal and everything, who I wish I could remember the name of that actor, but he's been in so many goddamn things. And there's a lot of familiar faces in this film. But he wants to go back and investigate further. They tell him, no dice, we are sending you to none other than Pennsylvania to figure out something that might be happening with this girl who's a hairdresser, who's none other than Patricia Arquette. She may be a vessel of somebody, and she's about to start getting stigmata stuff, and
she was already getting stigmata. That's how they found out.
And she doesn't believe in God, and you know, they say it's usually the most spiritually filled who are the vessels for that sort of manifestation.
But she received an artifact from her mother, who is traveling.
And therein is where we get the connection.
That's how she got possessed, and it's really interesting because
it's well thought out.
She had no idea what was happening to her. Everybody thought that she was trying to like commit suicide. She's like, I love my life. I'm pretty fucking awesome. And she,
which she says more or less at one point.
She does have like she's this. If you want to talk about like her background a little bit, like she's, like you said, she is a hairdresser, but she also is a little bit of a party girl. She's like an amazing apartment for what she does. Like, I'm not putting anybody down, but she must be good at cutting hair, because she's got crazy
it's not the city, though, you know, thankfully. You know,
you're right, it is Pittsburgh, but still, like, I mean, I can't afford that flat, you know, I'm sorry. But yeah, and she gets this stigmata that happens to her, and And then
it's going
twice
through all-
it happened to her twice, and that's when she finally she saw a priest on this subway. I didn't know Pittsburgh has subways, but what do I know? Maybe it's just a train.
Sure.
Who knows? Anyways, and he sees it happening, and that's how the church gets involved. And then they're trying to figure it together, and they find out that they're actually kind of going against the church. So that's.
So we've covered all of that. So Jaime, what did you think about the acting?
Oh, so we're jumping into the acting. You know, the acting, I'd mixed thoughts about Patricia Arquette, in all honesty. I didn't buy as much into the scenes of her and Gabriel Byrne and like chemistry and stuff like that was where it really, the evil, shady guys within the church, I bought into all of them, you know, and all the underhanded stuff that was going down. But as far as romantic chemistry, which is what the end game eventually entails, I thought Patricia, that like they could have just done without that subplot. They could have just had him be a priest, you know? They could have had him be there to help as opposed to her being like, oh, he's cute, you know, blah, 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 and he comes in for a haircut and she puts the... All that stuff felt so cheese to me.
But I felt
It
like...
was so forced, though.
I feel like... And I looked at it a different way, that maybe it wasn't really her, it was more like... You know, the demon inside of her was trying
Which
to
wasn't
tempt...
even
But
quite
see,
a
that's the thing.
demon.
That's what I feel like they were trying to force. It's like good versus evil. Like, you know what I mean? And it really wasn't necessary.
Like, and
so.
she was just looking for somebody to, like, kind of help her. I mean, yeah, the sexual undertones were kind of, like, weird. Because I wish they would have played it more of, like, you know, maybe a father-daughter kind of relationship. More
Yeah.
Keep it more Exorcist status,
you
man.
know?
I mean, yeah.
Like, she was looking for somebody to help walk her through this. And, like, yeah, they should have kept it.
It
like
didn't
that.
work out.
Yeah.
It was not executed at all.
No.
So.
Yeah, it's the
There's
subplot
no
that
real
bothered me.
chemistry between the two, and I think that's what really, like, took it away. And like, I agree, the acting wasn't the best in this movie. I'm not a huge Patricia Arquette fan whatsoever.
And yet she
Whatsoever.
sold it when she was
Yeah.
being afflicted
Yeah.
and like the crucifix
Yeah.
like type scenes and everything like that. I mean, all that stuff was good, and
But,
where
like-
where the eyes sunk back and she reverted into
When she
what
started
was inside.
talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, and you know that's a good segue.
when she opened her mouth.
But that's a good segue actually into the whole like you know
The
audio
graphics
and
and
like
Yeah.
music and stuff like that is the fact that the way they tried to overlay the possessed voice with they would let her talk for a
Yeah.
few seconds and then they would switch back to a man voice and then let her talk for a few seconds and switch back to a man's voice and really yeah, yeah,
It's my
it
favorite
just-
line. It's my favorite line. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I
Okay,
sat
it's
there
a
watching it
minute, though.
and I was just like,
It's my
this,
favorite line.
th-
I've
this
been waiting
person
this whole review.
did not know how they wanted to approach the demon voice in this,
Yeah.
and they were trying to do something different with the flip flop, and it just did not.
But again,
Well,
for
'cause
that
it's
time,
new.
it's new. It wasn't anything that had been
And it
touched
was
on
something
before.
like-
But they had done drop the register and all this other stuff before. It was the fact that it was just like a few words of this and then a few words of that just
Right.
hey, I can appreciate them taking a
Maybe
stab
they
at
were
something
just
different.
throwing spaghetti on the wall and see what stuck.
Maybe, yeah. And that often
What
happens
she
with
just
films
said.
like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as effects go, like the cut effects, the nastiness when it actually does transpire, set design and whatnot. I mean, I thought that was all good. I liked the shots of. Yeah, I'm actually really curious if they filmed it in Pennsylvania or if they filmed it elsewhere. I know it's cheaper to film in Pennsylvania. That's
I don't
where.
think they did it in Pennsylvania.
Really, because
Is
budget
it
The
really
whole
wise,
cheaper?
movie
No.
made me think of like either dirty LA or New York, to be honest.
I doubt because it's so much
I-
more expensive to film in New York and LA. So that's what makes me wonder. Although, yeah,
That is true. It is more expensive, but they had a lot of production on that. They had a lot of.
I feel
What do
like
they call
every scene that they did could have took like a day. Everything they did in the city could have took a day.
Yeah.
except for when they like jumped to the stuff in what was it, Brazil? Was that where they were? Yeah.
But I'm
that's-
just saying, like any of the city shots, they could have.
It's true. Yeah, I agree. So.
I'm not an expert of film or anything, but
Mhm.
I'm just gonna say like 1, maybe 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the score.
They're
didn't-
always going to go with the cheaper location, but.
And the score didn't wow or anything like that.
No.
It was like appropriately gothic and had its
So
moments and stuff
90s.
like that. Yes. And,
So 90s.
and honestly, very 90s when they segued into the.
Look,
slight-
I love the 90s. I fucking love the 90s.
I think we all do. We all grew up in them. But when they segue into the light goth industrialness that we hear in like some of the club scenes and stuff like that, I was like,
The party scene, the
you didn't
club.
license out the music like we saw in a lot of those other films of the era. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that's a good way for us to wrap up this review of Stigmata. Is the fact
did you
that
like the special effects? Did we talk about the special effects?
we did,
Like...
yeah. With her actually, yeah, that's right. I did a little pose just a moment ago. I thought that stuff looked good. I thought when she actually reverted into that role, it looked good, and I also loved where they, had.
Like the
I am a
of
sucker.
Her wearing, like the thorns and stuff.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, and how they segued through all the different, like there's going to be something on the side, there's going to be a crown of thorns, there's going to be, it's basically the Stigmata, for anybody who is unaware, is all of the wounds that Christ was inflicted when he was going through the crucifixion, is what Stigmata essentially entails. And there is one scene where they talk about, she's like, no, my wounds are on my wrist, as opposed to my hands, and that's been long since debunked, is that when they crucified people, they did not use the hands because it would slip right down, and so they would use the wrist because of the tendons and the bone and everything. And so there were certain nuances to this movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just not a movie that I enjoyed.
It's the first of its kind. I have to give it that, like...
Of the era,
yes. Seeing it now, you're not going to be as impressed.
Much.
But no, okay. Of the time, right now, seeing it, I'm like, you know what I mean. But for the time, it was up and coming. So
I thought the coolest part of the movie, though, definitely was the fight scene, and when she ended up when they threw the bed, and she ended up just hanging there. And I know we keep doing this, but just I keep
do it. Act it out. Yeah.
Because it was so cool because she was just there and just not moving, and you were kind of like, is she gonna get speared right now? And then he just walked up to her and just kind of took her down into his arms, and that moment was a really great moment for the whole, the best moment of the whole movie. I thought because it really just captured this kind of how he really cared about her, and it's not in a sexual way, but he just really wanted her to be okay, and he felt bad for her.
No, because she forces herself on him, and a few different times in the movie, she's just like, "Why don't you? I know you want to."
Yeah, but in that moment, it just felt like he just wanted to, he felt for her because there's no reason why she should be going through this, and he wanted to take that away. So I want to give him that for that moment.
Yeah, and when they pull the curtain away and you realize what is actually afflicting her as opposed to what you presume is afflicting her. And then all of the, church stuff that is of the corruption.
I totally forgot about the undertones about the church stuff, to be honest.
That's what made me suddenly interested in the movie, was when they, but they don't bring it to the third
act. When I rewatched it, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that whole...
And the Gospel of Thomas is a real thing.
We could go on and on and on, but we need to wrap it up right now.
Susie needs us to wrap this up. So
I'm just saying we've been going for a long. I know we could go on and on and on and on about this review.
Susie knows me and religious stuff, so she's trying to cut me off.
I'm just saying, I know when this is going.
The banter could continue back. It
absolutely could, and whatever you think, you guys can finish it in the comments below.
Do it.
So thank you so much for watching.
I'm Jaime and Fuego.
I'm Susie Von Slaughter.
And I'm Marcia Parker.
And we have a Patreon that y'all can check out if you want to dictate more of what we do with a review like this. Please make sure to do that. We greatly appreciate it. But I guess, guys, gals, I should say, until the next patron review, remember, stay scared!
You almost did our names again. I was like...
I've been Jaime and Fuego.
I am Susie Von Slaughter.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And remember
to check out our Patreon and stay scared.
Stay scared.
Boy, you were just not even letting us go through the rest of it.